I'm Jess.
And I'm Wes.
I'm Jess.
And I'm Wes.
I'm Jess.
And I'm Wes.
We are the National Wrestling Clipping Alliance. I'm Jess.
And I'm Wes.
And we are the National Wrestling Clipping Alliance, and you're watching the NWCA podcast, the only wrestling history podcast that doesn't just talk wrestling history, we show history. Wes, episode 27.
27 it is. You know, Jesse, if you just tell me to stop touching the buttons on the computer, I should be okay here. I just muted myself or you or something. I don't know. But I think I'm okay. Anyways, yes, 27. And we're rocking and rolling here. It's just so cool to be in this position of we've done 27 podcasts or vlogs or whatever you want to call them, right? It's so awesome. I love it. I just love it. I'm not going to say exciting. I'm just going to say I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. It's great doing. I'm having a blast doing it. Johnny's doing an amazing job editing all the shows. We're on a streak of just doing places that we have not done. The UK was a bit of a stretch for us, but whatever, we got to try, right? We got to expand our horizon for a variety of listeners of our show, as our demographic is really a big expansion.
We do have group members, anyways, on our Facebook pages who come from Germany, Scotland, England, Australia,
yeah.
And we don't have to, do something for them, but it's nice. And we're going on our big world tour, our big North American tour here this coming year, and I'm excited
for
that.
History tour.
Pardon me?
The history tour.
Yeah. And we should be able to fit maybe an Australia in there somewhere near the end of the year, and that's going to be so cool to do. Although you know what, we're going to Calgary, I think you said, and we're going to be doing King Curtis, who was huge in Australia, and that would be a lot of fun too.
Yeah, we're literally after this episode, we had nothing really planned, and I said, you know what, let's just do a big, massive tour where we just go and we do a whole bunch of flowing of dates and places that we haven't done, or we'll go back. And of course, being heavily Ontario based, you and I, our majority of our audience from Ontario. So, coming up, we're going to hit Stratford, Ontario and London, Ontario. And yes, we'll do Toronto again. We got other places in the States too. We're going back to Detroit. We're doing some WCW in the 90s. We're doing Dallas in the 60s.
Yeah.
We're talking names like Eddie Graham. We're going to be talking names Hardboiled Haggerty. We're going to do Gene Kiniski and Whipper Watson talk. I mean,
we got a big card coming up from Atlanta, Georgia, which is going to be a lot of fun. 1968. So this is just, we're rolling. We're doing what we love, and our numbers aren't like going through the roof like some sort of a cooking thing or something, but we are doing so well.
Yes, and speaking of numbers, I want to thank all the new subscribers for joining the party of the NWCA podcast. I'm going to move my chair over before Johnny freaks out, says he can't see me.
I can't top your head.
Your head. Yeah. He can't complain anymore until he learns how to spell.
Yeah.
And
what is it? SOLOMON.
It's WAH. He's got a problem with his O's.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Johnny.
No, it was meant to be woo.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
What a guy.
Johnny had a problem spelling Wahoo. What can I say?
Solomon, Wahoo.
Yeah.
Jeez, I don't know. But you can't spell subscriber wrong because our numbers have gone up. We're at 114. I can't believe it. We thought we just were going to hit 100 would be a decent goal for the year. And now we're at 114. We're closing out 2022 in a couple weeks. I just can't believe that we're growing. We're on TikTok now, which is blowing up, and definitely helped our numbers, I hope, a little bit. You know, we have our Facebook group numbers. Our Ontario group is in the high 800s, but our NWCA group is almost at 1,000 members now.
Yep.
It's just crazy, man.
It's so cool. It's just so freaking cool. I love doing what I do. You're more of the technical on this day in wrestling history kind of guy. I'm the more pulling shit out of nowhere. And I love doing that. And we've got a cool card today.
We do. We're doing another place that we have never done. We're going to keep the train rolling. You know, we did Greensboro, we did Memphis, we did the UK, and now we're in Hawaii.
You can't take the train there.
I know that.
Yeah.
Hawaii, a pretty popular place for a lot of wrestlers, Wes, considering it was a great stop before Japan.
It's have you ever had any inkling to go to Hawaii?
I want to.
Yeah. Have you ever smoked Maui Wowie?
Maui Wowie? Yeah, obviously. It's my favorite brand by general admission. Look it up, bruh. This guy, Maui Wowie. Yeah, so Hawaii, though. Honolulu, Hawaii, we're going to talk about today. July 14th, 1971. Ed Francis was the promoter. Wes, you want to talk about Ed Francis real quick?
Sure. Ed Francis was a wrestler himself, and he toured all over North America. And he had a famous son who played football with the New England Patriots and also wrestled, called Russ. And he had quite a career also, mostly in the AWA. But Ed Francis took over from, I think his name was Karasik in Honolulu. And they had, it was a really relaxed atmosphere there. The boys loved going there because if you were a regular, you wrestled like 3 times a week and you spent the rest of the time on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
On the beach.
It just throws me off a little bit when we were doing research and I sent you the clipping of the show because it doesn't make sense to me because...
What's this one?
Yeah, Ed Francis. Because I thought Peter Maivia's family was the high chief and all them were in charge of Hawaii.
They came in after. There was quite a few guys rolled through Hawaii, Jesse.
Yeah.
And
so I have my clipping here. I'm trying to find it.
Lars Anderson, who was another one of the fake Anderson brothers, he promoted there for a while. I know Ricky and Rocky Johnson. Ricky Johnson from Toronto was one of our group members. He wrestled in Hawaii for the Maivias. They you know, with promoters sometimes there's an inside takeover or a outside takeover where they just basically kick you out of the way, right? You're gone. See you. Bye-bye. Maybe
pretty
there's
much
a lull in the action or things aren't going too well and someone closes up shop and then the next person comes in 6 months later and starts to take over. Ed Francis had for quite a while there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, works for me. Let's should remind everybody again, we're talking about July 14th, 1971. So let's set the scene. Something we always like to do is set the scene for everybody. Yes. Just in case I got to forget, this is episode 27. So if this is your first episode watching, we set the scene every time we do this. Just to let you know, the champions of the major promotions. So the NWA champion as of July 14th, 1971. Dory Funk.
Okay. Mr. Funk Jr.?
Yeah, well, you got to think in 72, didn't he come to Toronto and fight the Sheik at Varsity Stadium?
Yeah.
Yeah, so whatever. AWA champion, Vern Gagne. What do you do?
Nothing wrong with Vern at all.
No.
Boss holding the belt and the pencil.
The WWF champion was Pedro Morales, which is funny because he's on the card we're talking about today.
Isn't that interesting?
But before we jump into that, Wes, into the card, we want to remind everybody that the NWCA podcast is sponsored by Grand River Tea. Grand River Tea is offering 15% off your final purchases when you use the code NWCA at checkout. It's easy to use. Just head over to grandrivertea.ca and check out the variety of premium loose leaf teas. Throw them all in your cart. Add the total up. Put the code NWCA in at checkout. Save 15%. Stay healthy while saving money.
Yep.
Now, July 14th, 1971. Let's show this. I got the original clipping. This came from the Terry Dart collection.
Yep. Honolulu International Center was at one time was called the Blaisdell Arena or something like that. A pretty big facility. I think they had I think it was 8,000 they could fit in there. Wasn't the biggest place, but then you got to figure also that it's Hawaii is like a million miles away. So great territory though for, like you said, Jesse, for guys stopping over from Japan for sure.
Of course. It's almost like Toronto is a good stop for other people to cross back over and stuff like that. All right, let's get into this. Hana Lee versus the Skull in a time limit draw.
I know, a time limit draw. We have absolutely nothing on either of these guys. Lee Han was he wrestled in UK, and he was a Mexican guy, and he wrestled in California also. The Skull, I do not know who the Skull is. The picture is not very descriptive, and sometimes, Jesse, how they put pictures of other people in.
Kurt Von Hess's photo and gets confused all the time.
Yeah, I think this could have been Bugsy McGraw. It could have been anybody. I don't know who that picture of that chap is. I really don't. It's just like someone who's got a shaved head. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, next, Danny Hodge defeated the Gladiator.
Yeah, it's weird to see Danny Hodge in Hawaii, and I didn't research it as much deeply as I should have. I did it with a couple of the other guys, but maybe Hodge was coming from Japan, because there's no reason for Danny Hodge, who was wrestling in the Midwest, Oklahoma, Mid-South area, sometimes into Detroit, why he would be in Hawaii other than that. And assuming that, I went through the card for most of the main eventers, and I thought, oh, well, all these guys were coming back from Japan. And it's funny because none of them were on the main eventers. But Danny Hodge, obviously, man who had tendon strength in his hands, could break just about anything. Could break pliers in half. That he was that strong.
Damn.
The Masked Gladiator, I think, is that what he's called?
Yeah, it just says the Gladiator. That's all. But then on the thing it says Mask.
Yeah.
So maybe it is the Masked Gladiator.
Yeah. So it was actually a guy from Winnipeg named Charles Sprott. Yeah, Canadian guy, who was more famously known as Ricky Hunter.
Oh, okay. I think I've seen that name before.
Yeah, Ricky Hunter was a masked guy in the big expansion of the WWF for a while. I forget what he was called there, but yeah, he wrestled all over the world. I thought he was British, but hey, I just checked. He's from Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sam Steamboat defeated Bob Sweeten. Now, Sam Steamboat is not related to Ricky Steamboat. There is no relation there.
But they've got the same last name.
Oh, don't do that.
Yeah, Sam Steamboat. I mean, I'm pretty sure his last name was like Mahoka or Mahoki or something like that.
He just made something easy.
Yeah, definitely Hawaiian. And definitely not Ricky's dad, brother, cousin, uncle, mom, anything.
No.
Huge in Florida. Just absolutely huge in Florida in the 60s with Eddie Graham, babyface tag team. Bob Sweetan was a Canadian guy also from Saskatchewan, and he wrestled all over the place too. And let's that probably would have been a great match.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that later. I'll ask you that later. Cowboy Bill Watts versus Rocky Montero in a time limit draw.
Okay.
I like now Cowboy Bill Watts. Obviously, I know because JR was Cowboy Watts' like protege.
Yep. So,
Yeah, and he was his announcer. He was his right hand man. You can read all about it in JR's book. It's all Cowboy. He still talks about Cowboy and his time with Cowboy Bill Watts and all that.
So I think Watts is. I was doing some research on Watts. I watched some older Watts stuff, and the big, broody kind of guy. 280, thick, big, muscular, baby face. Well, he wasn't always a baby face. He was the heel in the WWF back in the early '60s, and then he turned face. Supposedly, he was a bit of a pushy kind of guy, but if he's writing the checks, yeah, it's his prerogative to be pushy or whatever you want to call it. Like for the Mid-South or the his promotion, right? Here, Rocky Montero, his opponent, was one of the masked invaders in the WWF in the '70s.
Okay.
They were a pretty good tag team, actually, like mid-level, always on all big cards. Yeah, so a couple of good guys there that were working.
It's crazy to see like some of the names that in Hawaii, right? Like, but like I said to you, I always think of it as we'll stop here and then go here, right?
Yeah, stop over for 3 days, a bit of a vacation.
Yeah, even 2 days.
A bit of a vacation, hang out on the beach, and get a payday in. And a lot of the guys who had a name could do that and would do that.
Mm-hmm.
Needed a break, and coming back from Japan, book a week off or 2 weeks off and stop in Japan, make 2 paychecks or 3 paychecks at different wrestling centers they have there. And yeah, that's who wouldn't?
Loser leaves town.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Adios, back to North America.
Back to territory.
Back to whatever territory you come from. Lonnie Main and Ripper Collins defeated Pancho Lopez and Neff Maivia.
Yeah. So Pancho Lopez, I some of these guys, the names so I don't mean to be disparaging, but their names so generic, right? Like Juan.
I don't need to be like
Juan Lopez, But anyways, this guy was also known as Gorilla Lopez.
Okay.
And he's also known as El Olympica in the WWF in the '70s also. So we got a couple of guys here that were famous in the WWF as mid to high level enhancement guys. The El Olympica or Olympia, whatever his name was. They were the guys in the WWF when they couldn't wear masks, wore a hood with the face cut out. It was just the most stupidest shit. I mean, as if you couldn't tell who it was. In New York City, and they would wear that, and then if they were wrestling the next night in Philadelphia, they wore the full mask. Like, it's just stupid. But
I gotta send you clips of Hulk Hogan wearing a mask, and Vince is like, "I know it's you, Hogan." He's like, "I'm Mr. America, brother."
Yeah.
He said,
14-inch pythons on Mr. America. Neff Maivia is not Peter Maivia or any of them at all. It's a completely different guy.
Okay.
Worked Ontario here in the '50s. And one of his gimmicks was, this is probably kind of cool. Back in the day, the Mighty Igor used to have cinder blocks broken on his head, and Oriental guys used to karate chop shit.
Yeah, do like stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, this guy walked on fire.
Oh, damn, okay.
They'd throw some coals down in the TV studio, and he'd walk on fire. And it was a gimmick that was used in many promotions to get the face over where the heel wouldn't walk on the coals and blah, 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 blah. So, fire dance is a gimmick. And he wore like the grass skirt, the whole
9 yards.
The whole mumbo jumbo.
That's all right, though. Whatever makes the bill, whatever gets you over, right?
Yeah, whatever gets the paycheck in. So the next two guys, Ripper Collins and Lonnie Main, I got some pictures of these guys I'm going to put up after. Just two incredible talents. Lonnie Main was a second generation wrestler, worked mostly in Portland and California,
Okay.
and came out east for the WWF, I think once. Had a big run with Lou Albano as his manager. And when I show when you see the pictures, when you see at the end of this, the rolls, the guy was like, supposedly he was hammered all the time. And the pictures, he always looks hammered. He always looks hammered. Unfortunately, he died in a car crash like in the mid 70s, or he would have probably had a much more famous career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Ripper Collins was a massive Hawaiian guy. He wasn't from Hawaii, but he was there a long time. And
Yeah.
he was famous for messing up people's names. Yeah, that was one of his things when he was a great interview, funny looking kind of guy, really pudgy body, but he could really work really well.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a bunch of pictures of him too. Worked for the Wild Man. Worked in Detroit, worked in Toronto, worked as a mouthpiece for the Sheik for a year or so.
Really?
Yeah, in Detroit. So supposedly the guy loved to suntan.
Okay.
And on the beach in Hawaii, he'd lay with his arms back like this, and so he tanned like even in his armpits.
Yeah.
And he got melanoma and died.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Damn, that's shitty, bro.
Yeah. King Ripper Collins. He had quite a few gimmicks. I think his name was Roy Collins or something like that, and he was really entertaining, but he never made it big.
Phil Collins.
Hmm?
It was Phil Collins.
I hate Phil Collins. I hate Phil Collins more than I hate Lex Luger. Collins ruined Genesis.
Oh my God. You're hilarious, bro.
Even though he didn't do it, but I blame him for making Peter Gabriel go solo. Yeah, so there you go. Ripper Collins and Lonnie Main, they would have been a fantastic tag team. I would have loved to have seen them wrestle because they're a couple of nut bars.
Wasn't Peter Gabriel in The Who?
No. Pete Entwistle. Pete Townsend, John Entwistle. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like getting confused there. Get this music out of here for a second, man.
I love music.
All right, before we hit the main event.
Yeah.
Oh, main event. Something new that I've been doing and asking you. Which match would you want to see the most before? Because I know the main event you and I would both see, obviously. So before we talk about it, because I know that's the one you're going to pick and that's the one I will pick, which one besides the main event would you want to see if you had to go back in time?
Definitely the tag team. I would have loved to have seen Lonnie Main and Ripper Collins. Just for the entertainment value. I bet they did some really unique comedy spots and they could wrestle also.
Really, eh?
Yeah, that would have been really neat.
I'm doing Cowboy Bill Watts, bro.
But
you know, I love JR. JR is like one of my Jesse's personal Mount Rushmore.
Definitely one of our personal Mount Rushmores too. But what I've seen of Bill Watts, big guy with a big fist, and
is he like a Joe Doring?
Who's Joe Doring?
Never mind.
You fed me that question. You wanted that answer.
Joe Doring is a wrestler on the scene for Impact and stuff. He wrestles with Cody Deaner. He's like a huge cowboy looking guy.
Okay.
He fought in Japan and everything. He's great. He's actually got diagnosed with cancer again. So I hope he's doing well. And there's T-shirts available that everyone can buy to help support him and his family.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Impact and I think Scott D'Amore and all that are doing stuff for him. So
okay,
yeah,
shout out to Scott D'Amore.
Yeah, big time. All right, main event. This is a massive main event right now.
Yeah, we got this guy.
Yeah. Pedro Morales and Bearcat Wright versus the Sheik and Gene Kiniski. Now it ended in a double DQ, but just put some first. In 1971, I did say at the top of the show that Pedro Morales is the WWF champion.
Yeah.
Right? Then you got the Sheik, who, by the way, 1971, you're in the height of Sheik era in Toronto, I think.
And Detroit, yeah, he was like on the top dog.
He's the top heel of the world.
Yeah,
probably.
Yes.
Would you say early 1970s right now? The Sheik is top heel in the entire business?
Everywhere, yes. Like they couldn't get if they could have cloned him, everyone would have made more money. And the WWF wouldn't and couldn't get him because he would have had to have done a lengthy period of time to kill people and to get over. So he was so busy and so entrenched in Toronto, Montreal, Detroit, and his own big time wrestling area that he could. I'm surprised he even got to go do this show.
Yeah. Well, he was a frequent flyer to Japan, though.
Oh, for sure. He sure was.
So this could have been, I can't get to Japan until the next day kind of thing. Who knows? I don't have the Sheik schedule. So
I have a little bit of what he did here. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then you got Gene Kiniski, heel of all heels, also teaming with the biggest heel of the 70s, the Sheik. Like, just that is a heat magnet, bro.
Yeah, they fought each other in Toronto, like at Maple Leaf.
Yeah, that is
right around this time too. So that's pretty cool. So Bearcat Wright was a massive star, but he was getting to be near the end of his high drawing days. And I have done some Bearcats Wright stuff on the National Wrestling Clippings Alliance Facebook page. He was working full time in Hawaii at the time. Okay. And eventually he morphed back into the States, and then he became a manager, I think in Florida, and then retired. Going on to Pedro Morales. So this is what I like doing. This is one of my favorite things to do with wrestling history is find out where guys were working like the night before or the night before that or something. So this card is the 14th of July. Yeah. Pedro Morales, and we got him here. And I love this picture because it's been reversed. The WWF is backwards. Anyways, the 10th of July, he was in Boston. And the 16th of July, he was in Harrisburg. And the 17th of July, he was in Philadelphia. And this is right in between there in the 14th. So he wasn't coming back from Japan. He was specifically picked to go out there and come back, and must have been worth his while. Some of these guys must have made so much money. We know that is always put out there, like in the 70s, especially, everyone was making so much money and all these guys were high living and blah, 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 blah. But some of the world champions like Bruno and Pedro and some of the NWA champions, they must have made so much money back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Well, think about it. It's like Vince McMahon seniors running the WWF.
Yeah.
So he definitely got a cut of the booking fee for this.
For sure.
You're sending your belt, your champion to there for what, one day?
One
day.
So
he wrestles, sleeps, get on a plane, and he's back wherever he's got to be.
Yeah.
Right? So it was a one-shot thing. Do you have anything on the Sheik?
It's funny. I'm going to get there.
Okay.
Kiniski wasn't coming back from Japan. Kiniski did the same thing, flew from BC because he had just been in Victoria, BC, and in Vancouver. And he flew over to Japan to Hawaii for this one shot.
Okay.
Sheik, which is, I don't know how he squeezed this in. He must have just been, like you said, frequent flyer craziness, right? On Sunday the 12th, he was in Toronto and he wrestled against Guy Mitchell, who at the time was the Masked Avenger.
Mm-hmm.
The Masked Assassin. And then that would have been after the Saturday card when he worked in Detroit. So Detroit, Toronto, 2 days later in Hawaii, and then back again to Toledo and I think somewhere else in Ohio.
Okay.
So these guys doing shots,
Yep.
right?
Pretty much.
Getting their trans paid for, couple days holiday.
Tax write-off.
Yeah.
So people don't understand travel. It's a business expense. It's a tax write-off.
Yeah.
If you have a good accountant, it's more than a tax write-off. So
We've done some questionable holiday tax write-offs before, and
Okay.
and it's you just be realistic. You know, you're not gonna try to put in your whole vacation. But when we went to Texas the last time we were on vacation, it was a business trip.
Well, that is where Yopon is grown.
That's right.
So technically, you're not really doing anything wrong.
Unscrupulous. That's right. So I got another great picture here of Pedro Morales throwing Ray Stevens into the corner turnbuckle at MSG. And
Boom.
post them up. I've got a whole pile of pictures of Pedro and all of the boys on this card that will be showing up at the end of results on my phone that I've managed to get. And it's just so interesting because the card had so many different people on it. But again, 1971, that was a long time ago. The world was different.
Yeah. And it was like territory galore.
Oh, for sure.
Right. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely the match that you got to go back in time to see. The Sheik and Gene Kiniski. Like, come on.
I can't even imagine what transpired in that match. Like, I'm sure
it's a double DQ, so I'm sure that count out or freaking table chair or Sheik with the fork or.
I imagine Morales and Kiniski were doing the actual wrestling, and the Sheik and Bearcat were doing the brawling.
I can see that too.
Not that Morales couldn't brawl. He was famous because he was left-handed, and man, he laid out that left hook. Won tons of matches with a left hook.
Left hook.
And
boom, boom.
Morales was so loved in New York City. They had to take, well, in the WWF, they had to take the belt off him because his fans always rioted. They would
really.
He couldn't lose, yeah, because they would go berserk.
That's
and he held up when he won the match. He held up the American and the Puerto Rican flag, and that was one of the things he was also famous for.
I didn't know that. That's kind of cool, actually.
We got a picture of that too.
Boom. When Wes says he's going to put them up, he means at the end of the credits. So watch through the credits and you'll see all the pictures and everything. So don't worry if you missed anything. We show it all. The end. But this is not the end because we're coming back next week. But before we talk about next week, let's start Canadians on the card.
Oh, Canadians on the card.
2 or 3?
Kiniski,
Bob Sweetan,
and Ricky Hunter.
Yeah.
3
guys who work for Dave, aka the Wild Man.
We got Sheik. We've got Sheik and Ripper Collins. Yeah, just 2. That's it. Sheik and Ripper Collins.
It's crazy that Kiniski had it near even at his end of his career, even with like, his son starting to wrestle, that he wouldn't even work for Dave.
The time frame just a little bit out of whack, and Dave could never afford him.
Yeah,
I'm sure no matter when Kiniski was like 63 and he was still getting in the ring a little bit, he was still too expensive.
Yeah, what are you paying for the Sheik?
Yeah, well, he paid a fortune for the Sheik.
Well, there you go.
6 or 8% of the house. Jesus.
There you go. And if the house is only like $2,000,
yeah.
So there you go. What's 8% of $2,000?
$1,600. So $160.
$160. So there you go.
Yeah.
Plus his booking fee.
Yeah. And
yeah.
No, great card. I love this card. I've known this clipping like for my whole life. This clipping is like a famous clipping. I've known it my whole life, and it's just such a pleasure to be able to talk about this card once here, because like I've known about this card like since this probably came out in the magazines.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And now look at us. We're talking about it.
I know. I know.
Just want to remind everybody that we show everything at the end of the credits, and also you can check out our Facebook groups that are closing in on almost 3,000 members across the board. We have the Wild Man tribute page, the NWCA Presents Ontario Wrestling Clippings of the Past, also the official National Wrestling Clipping Alliance group, all on Facebook. We are on Twitter at official NWCA1. We are on TikTok at NWCA Podcast. Just look us up. Look up the hashtag NWCA Podcast. It's been viewed more than 8,000 times.
We have to say collectively on this side of the computer that everyone loves your TikToks. You're doing a fantastic job. They are so interesting and so cool, and you're doing a really good job, Jesse. I really appreciate it.
That's the social media aspect on the Instagram and Twitter and TikTok is my responsibility on the NWCA team. Wes only knows Facebook. But, you know, we're trying to teach you TikTok so you can get on there and get some videos up of things. But, yeah, so follow us on there. Don't forget to check our NWCA podcast YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button, share with your friends, comment on the videos, tell us what your favorite video is, tell us what you would change about the show, what you like about the show.
Sure.
We're always
Any
willing.
comment at all.
Yeah, we're always willing for feedback. We love it. And, you know, especially when people chime in and they're like, hey, just so you guys know, this is what actually happened. And I like that stuff. So, hey, keep it coming.
Why, Jesse? Because we're just fans talking about something we love. That's all.
it.
We weren't
You can't-
there.
Yeah, you don't go to university and get a degree in wrestling history, from what I know. Like, you just there's not a
It would
history
be awesome to
degree.
go.
I mean, hey, sign me up, but it's not there.
Yeah.
Next week, the history tour continues, or next episode, whenever it drops.
Yeah.
Montreal, Quebec.
It's going to be so cool to do this one.
What's the year? Let me try. 1972, September 1972. Jean Ferret versus Don Leo Jonathan, one of our favorites.
It's going to be a great card to talk about. It was one of the most famous cards of the year. I think it was definitely in the magazines. It was voted match of the year, and this is a big card. Not just because of the two combatants in the main event, but because of all the undercard too.
Yeah, the whole card in general. It's also a fan requested episode, which I forgot to mention.
Oh, okay. And that was
Montreal was requested by a buddy of mine. So Memphis was requested by one of my friends that me and Johnny go to wrestling with.
Yep.
And on the indie scene, and he wanted us to do Memphis, so we did Memphis. And our other buddy Adam was like, "Oh, you guys haven't done Montreal, man. You got to do Montreal." I'm like, we haven't done Quebec, really? Okay, cool. Yeah, all right, let's do it. So we're doing it.
that's going to be a fantastic one to talk about. I'm so excited because I lived in that time frame. I watched the TV show. It was heaven to us Toronto wrestling fans back then.
Oh yeah, it's
heaven.
And to this day, Quebec is still providing some of the best wrestling in the country. So
it's fantastic, and I would love to be able to go and see some of Rougeau's stuff and some of the other promotions that are around, and even in Hull across the river from Ottawa, there's wrestling going on. So it's big. Not any different from Ontario where you are or where I am here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I guess that about wraps up. You got anything else you want to say to anybody before we wrap things up? Or
I just want to say thank you very much to Johnny G for editing and spelling correctly.
I'm gonna get him a tracing book.
Yeah.
Where you trace the letters. Man, he's going to school for carpentry. Fuck, he better be able to read a tape measure better than he can spell. Let me tell you.
Right. And it was only 5 letters. Solomon was like 8.
Wow. Ooh, Werewolves of Thunder.
Yeah, that one too.
That's hilarious.
So we got to just stop talking about music because we don't like music at all, right?
Well, you hate everything because you're old, so that's just how it goes.
Yeah, just quickly, Kevin Basker on our Facebook pages and Quinty in the Groove. We've got another episode coming up with me and him. We'll replay songs. That'll be, I think, New Year's Day. That's airing. So
That's cool.
check our Facebook pages out for the link when he puts it up. That'll be interesting. We're doing wrestling and instrumental songs, so that's going to be kind of interesting. Also,
there you go.
yeah. And what else? It's getting close to Christmas. It's cold, and I love wrestling history.
And with that said, I'm Jess.
And I'm Wes.
And we'll see you guys next week. And thanks again for watching the NWCA podcast. Until next time, peace.
Ciao for now.
I'm Jess.
And I'm Wes.
I'm Jess.
And I'm Wes.
We are the National Wrestling Clipping Alliance. It's the NWCA podcast.
I love doing this, and I love you. In a cool wrestling history kind of way.
Hey, easy, man.